Hello students, I am going to be doing page 256 from the Go Math textbook. This is the first guided practice page for angle relationships that you had to do on Monday. So I am going to go through each problem step by step, and you can check your answers to see how you did it. So before you watch this video, please make sure that you have completed page 256 from the textbook. Okay, so let's look at number one. So number one says, for 1 through 2, use the figure. And then it says example 1. So whenever we are doing our Go Math textbook, you can always go back to where example 1 is on some previous pages, and they will have a step-by-step on how to do it. Okay? But number 1 I can see has to do with vocabulary. And we learned some vocabulary words in this section. So we learned what vertical angles are. We learned what adjacent angles are, complementary, and supplementary. So if you need to go back, look at those vocabulary words, again, go back into section 1. So the sum of the measures of angle UWV and angle UWZ is 90 degrees. So they told us that the sum, if I add, that's what they told us. If I add angle UWV, so let me find that, UWV, that's that angle there. And if I add that to angle UWZ, they told me that's 90 degrees. They really didn't have to tell me that. If I look at the diagram, remember we can see that there is this little square here. And that little square indicates a 90-degree angle. So we would know that these two angles together add up to 90 degrees. Okay? So it says angle UWV, and angle UWZ are what type of angles? What do we call two angles that add up to 90 degrees? That's right, we call them complementary. So they are complementary angles. Two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Number 2, let's look at angle UWV. Okay, so it's talking about UWV again. So I'm going to do a different color. UWV and VWX and VWX. So it's talking about this angle here and this angle there. They say they share a vertex, right? That's the vertex that they share. And they do not overlap. Nope, we have this angle and then this angle. They do not overlap. So angle UWV and angle VWU are what type of angles? Well, I can see that they form this straight line here. What do straight lines equal to? Right, 180 degrees. So two angles that add up to 180 degrees are called what? They're called supplementary. Okay. So those are some of our vocabulary words. For 3 and 4, use the figure. So we have this new figure here. Okay, so let's look at number 3. So number 3 says angle AGB. So I'm going to highlight that. A, G, and B. That's this angle here. And DGE, so DGE, are blank angles. Again, so some more vocabulary. So let's look at these. These angles are across from each other, created by two intersecting lines. So angles that are across from each other from two intersecting lines are called what? Yep, they are called vertical angles. And we know that vertical angles are congruent, right? Meaning they equal each other. So that means that angle DGE equals what? Well, if this angle is 30 degrees, its vertical angle is also 30 degrees because they're congruent. Number 4 says find the measures. So we're going to be solving some measures. Now again, we're still using this diagram here. So it says find the measure of EGF. So let me use a different highlighter so you can see what angle we're looking for. We want angle E, G, and F. So this is what we're looking for. We want to know what that equals to there. Okay. So it helped us get it started. It tells us that angle CGD, and angle DGE, and angle EGF equals 180 degrees. And that's correct, right? We have this straight line here. Straight lines are 180 degrees. So this angle and this angle and this angle, all three of these angles equal 180 degrees. So we just plug in what we know. So it wants us to first start off with angle CGD. So CGD, it tells us, is 50 degrees. DGE, well, we just found that in question 3, right? Vertical angles are congruent, so this is 30 degrees, so 30 degrees. And then angle EGF told us it is 2 times x, so 2 times x. And that equals 180 degrees. So then you can see that we have an equation, and we can go ahead and solve it. So let's combine some like terms. Which terms here can we combine? Yep, we can combine the 50 plus the 30. So together that makes 80 degrees. And then we still have our 2x. It still equals 180 degrees. Our next step is, again, we're going to solve our two-step equations. So how do I eliminate this 80? Yep, we minus 80. And what we do to one side, we do to the other side. 80 minus 80 is 0. We solve the 2x, we bring it down, and 180 minus 80, it's an easy one. That's 100 degrees. And then our next step, we want to eliminate the 2. How do we do that? All right, we divide. What we do to one side, we do to the other side. So we're dividing both sides by 2. And so that would be x would equal 50. But do we really need to find x? No, we really did not need to find x. We really just needed to find angle with a question mark, EGF. So we actually don't need to do this step here. We actually can just stop right here. And the reason why we can stop right here is because EGF equals 2x. And so we got the 2x equals 100. So we get the answer that the measure of angle EGF equals 100 degrees. So when we're solving for angles, we don't actually have to solve all the way for x if x is not what we're solving for. We're solving for 2x. So once we get to 2x, we can stop. Okay, let's look at number 5. So number 5 says find the value of x and the measure of angle MNQ. So we have a new diagram. So let me highlight what we're finding. We're trying to find the measure of angle MNQ. We want to find this angle here. But it also told us that we want to find the value of x. So we're doing two things. So this time we do have to solve for x. This equation here, we didn't have to solve for x, even though I found what x is. We didn't have to solve for x. This one we need to solve for x and then find the measure. So let's go ahead and solve for x. Set up this equation so we can solve for x. So we should notice that if we look at this diagram here, that you notice that we have our little square there. That means these are 90 degrees, right? That means that this angle, MNQ, and this angle, QNP, will equal 90 degrees. So let's just substitute in. MN cubed is 3 times x minus 13, and then QNP is 58 degrees. And so we can combine some terms here. All right, I can combine negative 13 and 58. My signs are different, so I subtract. 58 minus 13. And there are more positives than negatives, so it's a positive 45. So this becomes 3x plus 45 equals 90 degrees. So I'm going to actually rewrite this. I don't like how they didn't actually go back and solve it like they did in question 4. So I'm going to go rewrite this over here. 3x plus 45 equals 90. Let's go and solve for x, because that's what they wanted us to do. So what's the first thing we are eliminating? Yep, the 45. So we're going to minus 45 on both sides. That becomes 0. We bring down the 3x. 90 minus 45 is 45. So 3x is 45. And then how do I eliminate the 3? Yep, we divide by 3 on both sides. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1 times x is x. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. So we get x is 15 degrees. So we solved for x. We did our first thing. What is the value of x? So we found that the value of x is 15 degrees. Now we want to go back and answer the second question, right? And the second question is, what's the measure of m and q? Okay, well, m and q was 3x minus 13. Well, we know what x is, so we're going to substitute that back in. So it's going to be 3 times 15 minus 13. Well, 3 times 15 is 45. And 45 minus 13, 45 minus 13 is 32. So we see that angle, the measure of angle M and Q, is 32 degrees. So we solved for our second unknown. And then our last problem says this. Suppose you know that angle T and angle S are supplementary, and that angle T, the measure of angle T, equals 3 times the measure of angle S. How can you find the measure of angle T? So basically it's asking you, if we were solving this problem, the measure of angle T equals 3 times the measure of angle S, and we wanted to find the measure of angle T, we have to know the measure of angle S and multiply it by 3. So first we're going to find the measure of angle S and multiply by 3. How can we use what supplementary means for that though? Well, if it's supplementary, we know that angle T plus angle S equals 180 degrees. We know what angle T is. It's 3 S's, so we substitute that in. Angle T is 3 times angle S plus angle S. We can combine terms, so 3 angle X's plus an angle X is 4 angle S's. And to find angle S, we can divide by 4. And so we get angle S equals 180 divided by 4. So we get that that is 45 degrees. And so we know, since we have angle S now, to find angle T, we just multiply it by 3. So angle T going to equal 3 times angle S. So angle T equals 3 times 45. So angle T equals, what is 45 times 3? (135 degrees. Oops, sorry. So we just found angle T. So we have to find angle S, which is what we did, and multiply by 3. And we use the idea that T and S supplementary to find what angle T is. Well, I hope you understood how to do this page. Tuesday's work is the next page, page 257. Again, if you have any questions, leave me some comments or email me. Bye-bye.